G'day guys, welcome back to Beers and Break-Evens, our last few episodes of the year. We're going to go through our roastings to finish the season, and we've got a special guest today. He's here every week, but today he's in the hot seat. T-Rex, how good?
Just me, boys. It was bloody hot in here.
Oh, fuck, you look good down there. I love it.
I feel good.
Yeah.
I tell you what, sitting at that bar each week on the podcast, and look, I love the bar, nothing against the bar, but this cushy chair with a bit of heat coming from behind me, I don't mind it.
It's great. I'm obviously sitting up high looking down at you, a bit like the rankings this year.
Oh,
fuck you.
It's going to be another long 12 months.
We got Riser with us too from SuperCoach 365. What's doing, brother?
How you doing, boys? Yeah, good to be here. Look, obviously, end of the SuperCoach season, no better time for a bit of accountability at the bar. This is the top 1% bar, I think it is.
That's yeah, well, I've got a bone to pick with you later, but we'll get to that when it's your turn to be roasted, because Riser's a fucking imposter. But anyway, guys, brought to you by Blue Wealth Property, as always, our major sponsor, 2 years running now. They've got a couple of events coming up over the next few weeks. The big one is Wealth Through Property, the webinar. That one is live from Sydney Olympic Park, or you can join via webinar 28th of September. So that's probably grand final breakfast night, I reckon, around that mark. That'll be an exciting week. And next Tuesday, if you're on the Sunshine Coast, which, believe it or not, I actually will be up on the Sunshine Coast next week. I might make a guest appearance. Yeah, I'm actually going to be up there, yeah.
What are you doing up there, mate?
Got a wedding up there. You remember my mate Josh Cook that you sat next to at the wedding? The fucking cut snake fella? Yeah. It's his wedding. Can't believe he's getting married. Wild.
Early holiday, mate.
Yeah, it's going to be great. Looking forward to it. How good.
Also, mate, you've just set a new record for quickest testy pop on Beers and Break. 43 seconds in by my count.
My testicles just rolled out the door. I was hoping no one noticed. So yeah, Wealth Through Property live on the Sunshine Coast next week in Maroochydore, 6:30 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. As always, guys, over the next few weeks, if you've got any questions about Blue Wealth Property, wanting to reach out, or even in the off season, reach out to myself or Timmy Williams, assuming he's not left as a crisp by the end of the show today.
Yeah, it's toasty down.
Fuck, I love looking down on you. It's the best. Absolute best.
Staring at Chezzy in the background as well. It's good stuff. a bloke who saved me from embarrassment for the last 2 weeks. So
sure did.
Shout out, Chez.
Now, to the people that have won hats and footballs over the last 6 or 7 weeks, they have all been sent out. So they're all on the way. Shout out to those of you who sent me an email with your home address. To those that didn't, I'm probably going to murder you in your sleep. So brace yourself for that. And if you are the winner this week, make sure you put your home address on your email, or I'll give you the hot tip. You won't be getting a ball and a hat. That was Cameron, who coaches the Spandickles. And Timmy, you had a bit of background knowledge on this guy. Pretty impressive last round.
Yeah, so what, he finished 1,600 odd, and
he finished 13th overall.
Yeah, and I believe he came from like outside the top 1,000. So I think you mentioned to me pre-show that 3 of the top 4 from Beers and Break-Evens for the week scorers finished in the top 1,000. So people are going to want to smack me in the head for saying this, because I've done it a bit the last couple of weeks. This has been the only thing I've been able to hang my hat on, but the depth from these squads, they've come soaring into the top 1,000, and Spandickles in particular, 13th.
Depth is becoming your Corey Parker middle third.
Yeah, it is. It's
Tim Depth Williams.
When you have a tough Supercoach, you've got to find something to write home about, and that's it.
I think you're also big, Timmy, just to interject there, you were big on saving trades where you could, and you had 5 left, you used 5 trades in the last 5 weeks. So it's something that probably, I know I certainly didn't do, and a lot of others wouldn't have done as well. So I know you harped on about saving trades and having depth, and did it pay off? I don't know.
Well, my team wasn't going good enough to that point regardless, but like I picked up 2,000 spots in the final round.
There you go.
You picked up 2,000 spots in the final round?
Yeah.
Wow, you still finished 4,000. What a bed shit. I think that was because you copied me on Cherry Evans as well. But anyway, so now going from one shocking season to a fantastic season, Glenn was the winner of our Beers and Break-Evens comp this year. I think he finished 5th overall, so 5,000 of the best coming your way, a broken stallion, a football, a hat.
What, you're sending me, are you?
Well, a couple of broken stallions around. And we thought today, I've managed to get Glenn's phone number. He doesn't know that we're ringing him, so I thought we might just surprise him and see if we can get a hold of him. We know he's busy today. We tried to get him on the show. He's got a couple of meetings, so hopefully we're interrupting something.
Glenn was the North Sydney Bears statistician from the early 90s.
Wow, that's unreal. Something, Glenn.
Come on, Glenn.
He's got no idea he's on the show.
Or what your number is, so
yeah,
it'll be a rope.
Glenn Dunn.
Glenn Dunn, this is the Rugby League Guru from Beers and Break Evens. How are you, mate?
Hey, mate, how are you?
I'm good, brother. You're live on air.
Mate, you're kidding.
Yeah, you're on.
We're not kidding.
I've had a duck out of a meeting.
I knew it. Mate, we'll let you get back to it, but we just want to say congratulations, mate. $5,000 and a broken horse coming your way.
Mate, how good is that?
How
mate,
bloody
thanks
good.
to you guys too. Fantastic content, great podcast, good blokes. Been a great year.
Yeah, Tim's here too. Speaking of good blokes.
I'll take that back.
Hey, what are you going to drop your 5K on? Are you coming to Vegas with us or what?
Mate, I reckon it could be Brisbane next year.
Oh, Magic Round.
For the round, Magic Round.
I love that. All right, mate, we'll let you get back to your meeting. Congratulations, and we'll have to have you on in the new year, okay?
Have a good day.
See you, brother.
Cheers, bye.
5K'd go a long way in Brisbane.
Oh, yeah.
Whatever.
That would go a long way.
I love when good people do good things. Glenn seems like a fucking champion.
Glenn does seem like a champion. He reached out a few weeks before the end of the season saying sort of thanks for the year for all the playbooks and the beers and break even and everything that gone into it, and just seemed like a very genuine good dude, and boom, there you go.
Yeah, how good. We love that. And, mate, Supercoach 365, give you a quick plug before we get stuck into dry fisting this fella down here. What's been going on this year?
Oh, look, it's obviously been a big year. I think this was our third year doing regular content. So, like you say there, I guess the most rewarding thing for us, and I know personally, is getting those messages end of the year saying thanks, and puts it all into perspective when give up your time to do what we do, and if you can help one person out, then we've done a good job, I guess.
Oh, I've tried. Fuck me, I've tried, mate. Some people just don't want to be helped, though, you know?
You got to open your ears.
That's it. Yeah, that's exactly it. So, yeah, we're going to have Riser on the show a little bit more.
Stallion to water.
Yeah.
But you can't make it drink.
Ranks are overrated. I'm just here for the ride and the good times and the laughs.
How good. All right. Should we get into giving this guy what he deserves? So Riser's going to go through his team in round one, where it all started, humble beginnings. Take us away.
4,100 overall was the final finish. So,
I wasn't going to say it. I thought you'd be a bit embarrassed.
Oh, mate, I'm happy to own my rank. It happens.
That's cute.
Happens to the best of us.
I think to kick us off, why don't we go back to round one and we'll sort of go through your starting 17, but then also your extended reserves. So fullback.
Do you want to start or finish with Franklin Pele? Because he's there for 27 rounds.
Well, that's probably good place to start. Franklin Pele, he didn't play round one, but two that did. James Tedesco, Tommy Trbojevic, your fullback options. So, look, it's probably the popular fullback pairing, I think, to start the year. Centre wingers, a couple of cheapies amongst this lot, Sania, Taruva, Alofiana, Khan, Pereira, with a couple of guns as well, Valentine Holmes, Brian To'o. Halves were Dewey and Cleary, back rowers of Egan Butcher, Teague Wilton, Luke Garner. Throw in amongst that lot Jermaine Hopgood, David Fafita, front rowers of Stefano Itukamanu and Ruben Cotter, and your hooker pairing Harry Grant and Brandon Smith.
Fuck, you were high on Ruben Cotter in the preseason. That's just flashed back to me.
Yeah, I was.
I rated it at the time too. But
what happened to him?
I have no idea.
Like, he didn't go poorly, but he didn't hit the heights. To be honest, I was looking at him at the back end of this year, and I saw he averaged about 50 or 52 or something, and I know he had like hammy issues and some reduced minutes, and he came back from injury and reduced minutes plus Origin. And I straight away went round one next year. He's going to be cheap. There'll be minutes there. And I'm already getting excited about Cotter for round one next season. But yeah, why do we think he didn't hit the straps that we anticipated this year?
I don't know. Just sort of, I mean, him and Taumalolo, they should just be so much better than what they are.
We're obviously winging this, and I'm not sort of got any data to go off. You boys have got all the power up there to do what you want. But minutes, I feel like he didn't play as big in minutes as we'd sort of probably anticipated from the start of the season.
Quite possibly.
Round one, so just to sort of, you would have been feeling pretty good after round one. He scored 63 points in 67 minutes. That's probably exactly what you were expecting to see from him. I think Cotter, much like the rest of the Cowboys team, we're all so big on them. I know personally I was. That first 8-week block, it looked amazing on paper, but didn't turn out to be. Valentine Holmes probably falls into that bracket as well, and that's someone else you started with.
Pretty happy with that round one side. Like, looking back on it now, Val Holmes, we're going to go through week by week trades and punch through that. So it was he was a real bane of my season, Val, because we'll get to him a bit later, but I stuck through him when he was punching out consistent 60s. Just sold him at the worst time, but we'll get there.
We've already mentioned Franklin Pele. That's probably the bad of your non-scoring players round one, but someone that you have to give credit to Timmy for. Jacob Preston, you started the year with him. Obviously was a target that many seem to race into their sides not too long after round one, but to find him a diamond in the rough. He only got 25 points that first week in 51 minutes, but very quickly he became a staple of your team and many others.
Presto was a big one, yeah, and not that many started with him either, so he would have been near the most prominent most traded player in week 2, but certainly by week 3, and people flocked on, so yeah, got that one nicely. And Presto cleaned up at the Doggies Awards last night, 3 from 3. I think Player of the Year, Rookie of the Year. So Preston, what a man.
I did notice as you read through his team, obviously Jacob Preston was a nice little could be anything from the T. Williams camp, but I noticed Ruben Cotter, I noticed Jermaine Hopgood, I noticed Lofty Khan-Piera.
Yeah.
Did I just introduce you to your entire team, or?
How's Guru? Sees a winger like Lofty Khan-Piera. Oh, he runs sub 1000. Oh, he could be anything. No shit, Sherlock.
Jeez, I remember when everyone told me that about Xavier Savage too. He's a good little reserve grader.
5 points for Khan-Piera round 1. So
yeah,
it would have been a few jitters after seeing that, but he came back and
drafted him in round 7. It's probably my worst draft pick of all time. Needed him to run fucking sub 8 to be a round 7 pick.
Do you want to get into trades?
Yeah, let's rip and tear and do it.
So didn't make any trades, Timmy, round 2. Round 3, you actually used a boost. Let's start with the players.
He loves going off early.
Players that you shifted out. Brennan Smith was quick to go. Egan Butcher, Isaac Thompson as well. You brought in Reid Marnie, Eli Katoa, and the Hammer.
2 out of 3 were good. So who went? Oh, Cheese.
Brandon.
So Cheese got injured.
Yeah.
Who were the other 2 that went?
Butcher and Isaac Thompson from the Rabbits.
Wasn't Egan Butcher disappointing early on in the year? He came back and did well later on, but again, he was a real... I thought he was going to be a real super pod early on in the year. That starting edge spot for the Roosters, a bit of a gold mine.
Yeah.
And it was probably certainly reflected in my side, but I was high on the Roosters, like most people were, to start the year, and started with Cheese, Egan Butcher, Tedesco. When they started slow, not that my side started too bad by any means, but the Roosters contingent let me down because Egan no good at all. Marnie came in and did bugger all for me. Eli Katoa came in and did well. Who was the other one?
Hammer?
Hammer was great.
Yeah.
I didn't realise you had a Hammer.
Yeah, and
nice little pickup.
And dished out some good numbers for me too.
I loved at the end of round 4, mate. Ruben Cotter already shown the door. Made an early move there. Brought him in for one of your boys, Joe Tapine, but it's the other trade that week that I fucking love that you spoke about all preseason to your credit. Reece Walsh in. Teddy out, Walsh in.
Yeah, because he missed round 1 from memory. Walsh, maybe even round 2, little hammy niggle. Because I was really keen to start the season with Walshy, but got him in early enough that, he did plenty of damage there. And the other, again, I've harped on about it all season, so apologies, but we are doing a review. Greg Marshall was in my round 1 team, and then he didn't get named in team list because he had like a calf niggle.
Yeah.
Did not end up owning him all year.
Yeah, I recall.
Absolute dagger.
Yeah, you were... Well, I mean, you never arrived at the Marsu party. We'll talk about KP later, but I think that's another one that really divided you this year. Mate, one trade that just filled my heart with joy. Round 7.
Here we go.
Trade out Reid Marnie, trade in Sonny Luke.
Oh.
How fucking good. Love that.
Yeah.
I take full responsibility for it, but love that.
The best thing about this is that I actually got out of the Sonny Luke debacle relatively okay, because we'll get to it later, but I cut ties with him a hell of a long way before a lot of other people did. I know people had him there all the way through to the end of the season. They're just going, round 27, Penrith restings, Mitch Kenny not back, Sonny Luke, look, he'll get decent minutes. And then he got dropped from that side as well. So I got off the Sonny Luke bus just in time, but that hooking position, because I started with Harry Grant and had him all year, nailed that. But between Marnie and Sonny Luke, and what a shit position that was this year.
Now, Sonny Luke was a shit fight trade in round 7, but your other 2, I think, are interesting and notable. The first one, you traded in Nico Hines. Now, obviously, we both missed the round 4. Was it round 4? 180-point score as captain. So a lot of Supercoaches got that one. So we missed out on that one. You got him a few weeks later, but, mate, our knight in shining armour. And I actually believe he won an award last night at the Newcastle Awards night called Knight in Shining Arm, which I love it. Phoenix. Yeah. Mate, you traded in Zach Hosking in round 6 and then Phoenix in round 7. It was a lookalike-a-thon.
Yeah.
How good?
Yeah. And then I don't know what took me so long to get Daly Cherry Evans into my side as well, but could have had the big 3 in 3 weeks. Yeah, Phoenix Crossland. Probably my player of the year, I think, Phoenix. He just came in at a time from memory where there were no 5'8" available. And I was thinking, he was set to make some cash. He'd got that hooking role. I went, you know what, let's just gamble with it and get him in. Just served an outstanding purpose for my side all year and probably my favourite player of the year.
At that point, I think Cody Nicarima was probably another name that you probably would have considered.
Yeah.
He had the dual hooker 5'8" capabilities as well. Was it purely a price mechanism to go to Crossland over Cody? Do you remember that?
Because what they were both. So Nicarima, I would have been running, I think. Yeah, because I had Sonny. I probably had some faith in Sonny Luke doing something at the time and coming good at some point in the season. So I think it must have been the dual 5'8" halfback of Crossland and being able to interchange him there. So
how many times, and we said that countless times throughout the year, like that flexibility, dual halves, they're so rare. And I know Crossland, myself, I flipped in between 6 and 7 a couple of times. Just one more thing I want to point out here. Sonny Luke, I know we've probably harped on a little bit, but it's round 7. You've used 4 hookers. Like, what do we put that down to? Hookers predominantly been a position in the past, 60s and 70s were just mainstays. We couldn't find it this year.
No.
But I think also, it's predominantly been a 60s and 70s, mainly because of Cam Smith.
Yeah.
I think that is all changing now. I think that you need to be like I've said it for years in draft competitions that I just don't draft hookers. I just don't bother. Even if they're Harry Grant, you take them round 1, and what are the chances of Harry Grant going 150 to bury? He did it a few times this year, to be fair, but you're just not going to get it consistently. So I think that hooker over the next few years is going to be a very important position as far as what you do with it, because I think it's lost a stack of value.
Yeah.
So I'd used, both round 7 or 8, I'd had 4 hookers in and I had a mainstay in Harry Grant in the entire season. So there'd be a lot of sides didn't start with Harry Grant or get him into later. They must have been chopping and changing like mad.
Oh, they would have, for sure. And I think there's going to be logic in that over the years, that you just get Harry Grant and you just leave him there. No matter what, you just leave him there. But I think fucking around with other hookers, like I reckon the 80-minute hookers just about Gonski. Like Lachlan Croker won't be an 80-minute hooker next year. Not that he was relevant, but it just shows 80-minute hookers are just falling off.
I think you absolutely start with Harry Grant next year and pay up whatever he costs.
Yeah.
And then the question with Harry is always get into that origin period, reduce minutes, potential restings. We were fortunate this year, Harry Grant owns with him, because Melbourne didn't really have a noted backup hooker, and they also were like borderline top 4, top 8 for a lot of the season, so they had to play him all the time.
Yeah.
So he didn't get his restings, but you nearly just cop his regression through Origin. He held upright this season because he had 2 tons through that period, along with some shit scores, but you almost just cop it and save the 2 trades and just go him all year.
Yeah, and I mean, Damien Cook's not getting any younger. And I know I've said that for 3 years straight now, but eventually the year will come where they've got Pete Mamazelis, these sort of guys, and Blake Brayley's really the only other one that I would consider.
Yeah.
But his scores just aren't at that elite level, are they?
I'll tell you what, I don't want to go the early crow on this, but I had a gut feeling that my trades for the season were pretty good, and I don't think there's going to be anything too bad in there. Timing was one that killed me with a lot of them, and not getting players on the right time. Kalyn Ponga being, again, we'll get to him soon, but I don't think there's anything stand out that was terrible, but that could be different pretty soon.
I think a timing that you got right, which I think both of us got right, someone at this panel didn't, and I can't wait for his roasting. Jareen Buller at 283k. You went Reece Walsh down to him. You traded Walsh when he was at 666k, the Devil's dick, to Buller at 283k.
Yeah, that'd be up there my best trades of the season. Anyone that nailed Buller at 200k, well done, because you banked obviously the extra 80 odd. But Buller, that was one of my best trades of the season. And again, talk about timing and getting my trades right, but my timing wrong. Again, we'll get to it soon. But I just, looking for the extra number through the Origin period, I sold Buller just 2 weeks too late, and it cost me a fair bit of cash.
Yeah. So just on Buller, you brought him in round 11. It was a modest 45 points against the Bunnies, but then didn't have to wait too long for him to repay. 124 round 12 against the Cowboys. That was that big night out there at Leichhardt. And then another 100 at Campbelltown against the Raiders. You'd probably remember that one quite well.
I do remember that one quite well, yeah. And he got to like 711k or something. Then from memory, he had there was a buy in there somewhere and a couple of tough matchups. And I stuck with him. And I know a lot of people jumped off certainly earlier than I did. So it didn't kill me, but I lost a lot of value in him. So there was a bit of a lesson there. And look, the kid's a freak, but he was playing for a shit team and just cut him. That's SuperCoach 101, isn't it?
Yeah.
Buy low, sell high.
I think round 12, as you said, timing cost you a little bit throughout the season. I think this was a big one. You traded out Val Holmes. I think this was a big divider between you and me. I held him for the entire year, which he missed a couple of games, but when he played, he brained it.
He was missing, I can't remember if it was 4 of his next 5 or 3 of his next 4. I believe it was 3 of his next 4 due to Origin. And he also, because of where the Cowboys were on the ladder, to be fair, Val is great at backing up from Origin and that sort of thing, but didn't rest. And the couple of games that he played through Origin, I think he missed like 4 of 6 through the Origin period. I'm like, he's a sell, absolutely. But the 2 freaking games he played, I'm sure you've got the numbers. One was a 150, and I'm sure the other one was a big ton as well.
So round 13, he didn't play. Round 14, he went 150. He then had a bye in round 15. Didn't play round 16. Round 17, scored 91. Round 18, scored 117. Had another bye, then came back and scored 93 in round 20.
And not everyone, but heaps started with him. Heaps sold him like round 7 because they were like, no, these 60s aren't cutting it. I'm like, we sat here on the panel and we're going, he's doing it without attacking stats. This is brilliant. Just be patient. I was patient for as long as I could. That round 12 trade made complete sense. And then that 150, and then off the back of it, couldn't get him back in because he was so freaking expensive.
Yeah, exactly. Well, thankfully, he then got sin bin 2 weeks in a row into a suspension that ended it. So it didn't work. It wasn't ideal for you, but it could have been heaps fucking worse. He could have been unachievable for a lot of people. And even Wild, that first week he got sin binned, didn't score a try, still scored 50 that week.
Wow.
He's a freak, Val.
I think something we haven't touched on yet, we will now. Round 13, you used a boost. That was your 4th boost by round 13. You traded out Cook, Damien Cook, Tohu Harris, Samuela Fainu, this is your trade-ins, and Cody Walker. You shifted from Sonny Luke, Christian Welch, Stefano, and Nico. 4 boosts by round 13. You reckon that was pretty common this year?
Yeah, I remember a lot of people had used sort of 5 by that point.
Yeah.
I know the Spy used 5, and I'll stand by this one, but I used my next boost by round after their final Origin week, and I think that is just absolutely the play going forward to save one for that week to get your side sorted. But yeah, people went really hard on boosts early, and I had 4 by 13. I think 1 in round 3 is awesome timing for it. Potentially, if your team's a shit show, you could use 1 round 2. But round 3, probably that round 13 when we're prepping teams for the Origin period, and round 20, they're the 3 that I'll more often than not lock in, I reckon.
What do we make of boosts? We've had 2 years to look at it now. Are they overrated, you reckon? Or, like you started to say, that you pick out 3 weeks where you need to absolutely use them, but come the back end of the year, say we do get to round 22, should we be looking to hold one for the last couple of weeks?
Well, I mean, I've said the start of this year that I will definitely hold one for the last round. I wasn't able to.
Yeah.
And I look back now at what I used it on and think, did I need to use it? I just think that if you can keep your... And mate, as much as your team, it didn't work out this year, but I think my team showed I was at 6,000 with 3 weeks to go, had trades up my sleeve. If I had boost there for the carnage that we saw, and it's a 27-week comp now. I know some people were bowled over that there was restings at the end of the year. I have no fucking idea why, but brace yourself. It's going to be the norm. And I think holding a boost towards the back end, if you can find a way to do it, is gold. But I agree with what Timmy said. I think using one in round 3, I think it's just about a must.
Yeah, no brainer. You just cash in on
round 3, and then week after the Origin period. I think once you get your team sorted for that run home, I think they're the 2 key weeks that you lock it in. Yeah.
I thought, speaking of being overrated, I thought the thing that was overrated this year was how hard we went at those Origin rounds.
You think?
Yep, I do.
Because of the additional bye.
Because of the additional bye, and I just think that because it was only your best 13, I think that we put a lot of emphasis on, got to have, 10's not enough.
Yeah.
It's only 3 players difference. And I mean, at the end of the day, when we got to the end of the season, those 3 players that might be 180 points, that was nothing by the end of the season.
And you think, I know, looking at Tim's team here, he had, I think, Manly players played round 13. Samuela Fainu probably was a name that people would have got, cheap 200k dual position forward that you could probably nuff out later. But really, like you say, is it worth burning that trade in round 13 for 50 points extra? You probably make that up later anyway.
Definitely. To be fair, I reckon Fainu got screwed. By screwed, I mean my Supercoach team got screwed because Fainu was going to the Tigers and it's like, no, we don't need you, mate. Yep. I stand by that trade. I didn't know he was going to sign with another club and not play.
Round 14, we'll keep this going. You brought in Eli Katoa for Jared Croker, so sold one of your
What a
favourite
fucking
sons.
dog.
Yeah.
What an absolute fucking dog.
100 to 300 gamer. Got rid of him, just brushed him.
There wasn't much mention of actually bringing in Jared Croak when no one else did and doing a wonderful job for me.
You did sell him 145k profit. We'll just slip that in. Eli Katoa, though, you brought him in round 14, a little bit unlucky. I think he was injured against the Sharks round 15. Didn't play for another 6 weeks. So that's a case of probably right trade, but wrong time.
Yeah, he had that facial cut. A facial cut that kept me out for about 6 weeks. So...
Yeah.
Right trade, wrong time. He didn't fucking play football. It was a shit trade. Call it as it is, Riser.
Well, on paper, it was the right trade. Whether or not it turned out
We
like
finally
that.
got some common sense at this bar.
Rugby league's not played on paper. I think that's
Thank
the
you.
there.
Yeah, Eli Katoa, and we saw the way he finished the season and finished on an absolute tear. So to have had that from round 14 or wherever that was would have been very nice. But injuries happen, don't they?
They did.
Mate, round 17, I thought this was an interesting one. Ryan Madison sort of surprised me when you did it. In fact, I didn't even realise you'd actually done it until about 2 weeks later. And then we'll talk about it in my roasting as well. But he caught my eye very soon after that. I thought, after you'd done it, I realised I thought Maddo was going to be a superb trade-in. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't probably the height we expected it to hit.
Yeah, one that you've skipped past there, because I remember who I traded him in for. I was on the golf course at a friend's farewell. Tins were flowing, and my vague recollections of it were that it was a bloody beautiful day. It was a good day. How good's golf? Anyway, Corneli Lemuelu, who I traded in 3, 4, maybe 5 weeks early. You'd have it there somewhere, but he was one of my duds of the season. And I potted the Dolphins, as we now famously know, for the early stages, reconciled with them, apologised, all that sort of thing. And Lemuelu, I brought him in. I'm like, this will be the final peace sign between myself and the Dolphins, who again called me out on Instagram via a bloke post a couple of days ago. Thanks, Dolphins. And Lemuelu brought him in and just could not jug and tackle stat to save his life. So he went out. He was ruled out of the game. And what week did I bring in, Matto?
Round 17. I'm going to interrupt you for a second because you didn't trade Lemuelu to Madison.
Didn't I?
You traded someone even... You traded Lemuelu that round. You traded him to Richie Kennar, but you traded someone even better to Madison. For Madison, Josh Schuster.
Oh, thank Christ for that. One of the great trades.
What a pain in the ass that was this year. And I know it says next to Josh Schuster's name, you made 195k profit, but it was not worth your soul.
Nah.
It was just not worth it.
So... yeah, Lemuelu, from memory, was ruled out late, and it must have been Saturday Arvo. And round 17, it would have been with them 3 teams on the bye, the Tigers, the Dogs, and might have been the Sharks, from memory. Mm-hmm. And off the back of that, teams were very short on numbers, and I think I don't know if it left me short or left me needing to play a dud or something. So I was looking ahead to the round 19 bye week, which Parramatta played. I thought Maddo tried, tested, minutes on the up. I think he was coming back from injury or something maybe. I thought it was such a safe trade-in. And look, not that he killed me by any means, but the minutes just didn't come the back end of the year. Anyway, that's on Brad Arthur.
Tough one. Mate, one of your more interesting trades throughout the year, round 18, and he was a guy that I watched very closely all season because I was scared shitless of him, Jesse Ramian, one of your little pods for the back end of the season.
I really enjoyed owning Jesse Ramian. Like, he was a bit frustrating because there's some real Katoni Staggs vibes about Jesse Ramian. He'll put scores on he'll put scores on when you don't expect him to. So he's really hard to nail his sit v start, especially the back end of the year where you've got depth and you've got options. And like, he'd be playing a soft opposition, he'd score 30, then he'd play good opposition and go big. And had some great moments on the run home, was a solid number. Probably someone that I'd anticipated on getting rid of, but like anything, injury strike, you need to make trades elsewhere, and held on to him. And he just has a big work rate, bust tackles, offloads. I'm surprised he actually doesn't score a bit better in SuperCoach, but there could be a year if they find a way to utilise him a lot better. Because the Sharks' attack is so dispersed across the entire field, they don't need to rely on going to him. But if at any point they go, he's our man, let's use this corridor more, he's got a big breakout SuperCoach year coming.
I think it's only a matter of time too. Like, he's down that right side with Nico. He's just 26 years of age, so sort of coming into that peak of his career. He's played 5-6 seasons now of NRL. Like, he's going to get to a point where he will be that strike weapon for them.
Yeah. I reckon he's always going to be this guy.
Yeah,
I reckon Katoni's going to be the same. I reckon SuperCoach wise, they're always just going to fall short. I reckon
Ramian has a way better base than Katoni though, which leads to, with their nature of play, more tackle busts, more offloads. So I just feel like it's coming, but maybe not.
And believe me, if it does come, I'll be the first one to jump off that
Yeah.
train and get him in. But I've just got a feeling about Jesse Raymond that he's going to be one of those guys.
You could be right. Like, unlike the Knights, I think Gagai, Dom Young down that right side, the pass generally goes through Gagai's hands. It seems to miss Ramian a lot of the time. It's either short to Nicaragua or long to Katoa.
Yeah.
So he could be the, like Katoni Staggs there.
Now, mate, I thought round 20 was a pretty big one for you. Some big trade-ins here. Ty Munro was the first one. You obviously brought him in. You got Buller out. Netted yourself, 200-odd K there. But two other big names that came in. Dave Fafita, Cameron Munster. Huge.
Yeah. Probably my best trade of the year, that. Jermaine Hopgood went to Cam Murray, and not many people out there did it. And I flipped Hopgood from memory close to 700K and got Cam Murray in at sub 500K. I think I netted about 240K there. And from there on to the end of the season, Cam Murray, I don't think he averaged more than Hopgood, and it was not by, without looking at the numbers, he might have averaged about 10 or so more than him, plus that 240K, plus an extra number in round 27. So that was one of my best of the season. Dave Fafita was the other dagger that I had. Talk about timing. I was desperate to sell him after Origin 1 because I was thinking he'd get rests over that period. Can't remember why. It might have just been small knackers and wasn't game to do it, or it might have been need to do trades elsewhere, but really wanted to get rid of David Fafita. Came out and played that 30 minutes off the bench and scored like 20 or 10 points or something. And then I just thought, screw this, I'm not putting up with this through the Origin period. He'll play lesser minutes after Origin 2 and 3. And he didn't. He came out and played 80 minutes in both of them, and not only that, but went on a tear.
Yeah.
And like after paying up for Fafita at the start of the season, not even blinking an eyelid on him, got rid of him at the wrong time, made me pay, learn a lesson.
I think that was probably the key difference between our seasons. I held Fafita and Val. You made moves on them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Fafita probably one of those players, and there's probably a handful of them only in the whole comp that you hate watching their teams play when you don't own them. Like, I know Ponga. Have we mentioned Ponga yet? Are we going to get to that soon? I think Ponga is someone that come this time of year, Timmy would have been, shutting his eyes and not watching Newcastle games.
It's awful.
I think Fafita, you sort of buy him almost out of fear rather than out of hope or expectation he's going to bang out 80s, 90s, 100s every week. It's just, you don't... Personally, that's how I feel watching the Titans play anyway.
Yeah. No, I completely agree.
And isn't the fear factor of telling a story, when you fear someone that much, it's probably a sign to just buy the bastard.
Yeah. Tells you all you need to know.
Yeah.
100%. Round 21. Two big names came in here. Two big names went out, to be fair, as well. Hopgood and Mitch Moses. I reckon this is one of your better plays of the year, to be fair, and I gave you a lot of shit for it at the time, but Cameron Murray.
Oh, okay, this is this round, sorry, yeah.
Cameron Murray for Hopgood. Very nice trade. And then, of course, Nath Cleary in for Mitch Moses. First of all, mate, I want you to talk me through the great Cameron Murray.
Yeah, Cam Murray, he finished the season with
There's
an
an
average
art gallery of good-looking roosters behind you too, Cam Murray. Jesus Christ.
Oh,
Good looking rabbits.
Yeah.
Cameron Murray, God bless that man. I love him so much. And he didn't have his best Supercoach year. He averaged about 62 or 63, which is about a 70 average across other years. But I just love him so much. And yeah, you were into me, Rule, about bringing him in. I was like, I've never been so confident in trade in my life. I said before, banked 240K from the Hopgood trade. And Murray just came in and went on a tear for me. Scored that late try against the Roosters, or early try in the game in round 27. And that was up there with my best trades of the year. And Cam Murray, while he averaged 62 for the year, he averaged a hell of a lot more for my side this year for the Mighty Cooma Stallions. And yeah, I tell you what, I'll be bloody keen on getting him round one next year as well.
He was a very, very good get. And Jesus Christ, he's distracting. Mate,
What's the contrast of Cam Murray's head and my head?
Mate, have a look. You got a shirtless Cam Murray behind you. Looking the goods. Round 22, another South Sydney Rabbitoh comes into your side, Latrell Mitchell. Now, I would argue that it was Latrell that probably cost us a much better finish last season, and we just couldn't let him go this year, could we?
We couldn't. And don't you feel like he let us down?
Mm-hmm.
But he didn't do badly. I think he probably averaged 70-odd for us, which is fine. But at the same time, we were watching Drinkwater, Reece Walsh. I mean, everyone had Kalyn Ponga by that point, minus me, who were all going ballistic. And it's like, all right, 70s, we need more. We need tons from Trell, and they just didn't come.
Yeah.
So he killed us last season. He didn't kill us this season, but he didn't make amends for last year's debacle.
I'd probably throw Latrell in that same bracket as Fafita. as in like that fear player.
Yeah.
You know, everything through Souths is going through his hands. You're right, like 70s, you take them from Latrell, like you're not disappointed. I think where we compounded that is that he was spoken of like a captaincy option. You felt like at the price, 770 odd K, you had to have at least the vice captaincy on him. Whereas if you did go to someone like a Drinky, or at least, you know, in the halves with Cleary, Hines, there were probably better options there. The question, that we probably have to touch on, Ponga. It's the elephant in the room.
And I'm going to take over here because I enjoyed this so much. So Timothy made the decision to bring in Kalyn Ponga in round 23. He didn't buy him for 500K. He didn't buy him for 600K. Give you the hot tip, Riser. Didn't buy him for 700K.
Keep going.
800K.
More.
Keep coming.
More.
900K.
It's like a bidding.
No bueno. We went higher. We went for $1 million. The sign of a shit supercoacher. Over to you, Moneybags.
I'm going to throw it.
Can't get a fucking coffee out of him, but we can get a $1 million Kalyn Ponga. It's
I brought
unbelievable.
your coffee this morning, dickhead.
I paid you for it.
Yeah, Raj actually paid me. Shows the difference in the calibre of human being on
Slipped
this
in
panel.
a $5.
There's a combination. There's a lot to unwind here because this was the season-defining play, Kalyn Ponga. My Supercoach side is like a Shakespearean story, isn't it? Like,
Put you to sleep.
like yeah, yeah, well played. Like KP last year ended my season with the third minute concussion when I brought him in. We've spoken about that time and time again. It was that concussion knock that delayed me getting him this year. And I said, there's just a concussion coming. I can't do it. I'm his biggest fan and just blew me out of the water and killed me again. On the Playbook Potty last night, Roo, we were chatting about things we learned this season. And the one that I certainly took out of it was that you've got to learn to swallow your pride and put your stubbornness aside in Supercoach, because I brought him in this round. He'd killed me to this point. If I didn't pay $1 million for him, he would have shattered my season, because he went on and just went ton, just kept doing it. So while it was awful to have to pay over $1 million for him, at the same time, I learned a valuable lesson that if a player's this good and they're on a run of form, you've just got to do it.
And yeah, I think that if you wouldn't have brought in KP when you did, I think you could have potentially missed like the top 10,000.
Would have been free fall.
Yeah, you would have been in all sorts. So it is a good lesson.
The only counter to that is a lot of the fullback like alternatives. Like if I didn't go him, and I went with Reece Walsh or someone, or Scott Drinkwater, or Drinky would cost a ton as well. But even Tedesco, they all went bonkers too. So it wouldn't have been free fall, but obviously the right decision was made. So KP. And the other one that I touched on the potty last night was just head knocks are a little bit of a different one, but I was just so scared off by his history of head knocks. Probably one more for injuries, but if they're playing and they're active and they're good to go, the club have got faith that they'll get through okay. Probably just don't be too worried about what could happen. If they're a good enough player and they can go big enough, just get them in.
Just with Ponga as well, like we know he came back from the head knocks. There was talk that he was going to medically retire if he got one more.
Yeah.
Like there was that serious concern for him. I think another reason why...
I think that was only Tim talking about that, though.
he was
I said he could medically retire.
trying to justify not buying him. I think though as well, like the round 14, he had a bye. Like we didn't know if he was going to be picked for Origin, so he could have missed some other games around that period. But to the point, like he probably averaged 130 just doing some quick math here, like from round 15 onwards.
Yeah.
Close to it anyway.
He averaged, I did some numbers yesterday, from when at fullback, he averaged about 105 or something. And as I said, from around about the point that you mentioned, when everyone else jumped on and they'd seen him back at fullback, they'd seen him back to form, and most importantly, he'd strung a few games together, they'd gone, it laid some of those fears for the head knocks. From when people got him in at that, whatever time that was, 15, 16, whatever it was, yeah, he would have been like 120 plus average.
Now, mate, the next guy I want to touch on, this is a guy that we avoided for so long. Kalyn Ponga. Now, you brought him in round 25, which that night looked like a tremendous decision. Brought him in late. I think he scored 125. He then proceeded the week after to score 25. Then he didn't play the week after. So you got the big score. And I mean, if he just would have played the last week, it probably makes it a good trade. But unfortunately, the way it played out in the back end hurt ya. Do you look back on that one and regret that one? Obviously, all in hindsight.
I absolutely don't regret it because so he got me 150 points across his 2 weeks. So he averaged 75 for me.
Well, he got you 150 across 3 weeks.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, he missed. Like, the Warriors, at that time, they still had 3 games to win to, like, secure a top 4 spot. He's a winger. I backed that he was going to finish with a bang. He did in the first game. The dagger, I was probably aware that there was a chance at arresting in round 27, but again, banking on things that may or may not happen. The Warriors could have lost a game or two and had to play for top 4 spot, and he had to play that game. So I certainly don't regret the trade. That being said, the dagger there was, I just needed him to punch out 50 or 60 against the Dragons in round 26, and that's that edge that had just decimated and he killed any side all season. The Dragons of all teams shut it down, and he scored his 25. So, you know, if he punched out another 25-30 there, it all of a sudden becomes a 90-point average across 2 weeks, which becomes, 180 over 3 weeks, 65 odd. Anyway.
Kohler
scored 300 in 2 weeks.
Dallin averaged 100 against the Dragons this year. Just Timmy missed out on the 175 back in round 17. But I mean, that's the perspective.
I love that.
He averaged 100 against the Dragons, but you brought him in for the 25. I just want to take you back to probably that middle part of the year. I know on the Playbook podcast, I think it was the Spy or Ads Darusia, they were big on Dallin for that middle part of the year. Spy. How much of it is a learning to? I know we always say trust your gut, trust your first instinct, and obviously your instinct wasn't to buy him, but you mentioned swallow your pride there as well. How much do you have to take on the opinions or the advice or the thoughts of others and actually start to consider them as your own? It's a juggling act.
I'm probably like, compared to the regular Supercoach, a different boat, because I sit here and I consume it all week and I consume different opinions from different people. So I'm so strong on backing my own thoughts and what I do. And I'm like, it takes a fair bit to change my mind. And there'll be times where someone will say, mate, you're overthinking this, or it might be you're underthinking this. Like, this is the play. Kalyn Ponga, for example, the week, that was it. I don't think I was even looking at bringing him in as my trades because I was so stubborn. I'm not paying over $1 million for him. And Darusi just goes, mate, you've just got to get him in. And I just sort of a switch flicked in my head, like, you're right. So I certainly take it into account, but like, I consume so much content across Playbook website, across the contributors, with Guru, dare I say it, even the Guru occasionally at times, that, I honestly just back what I do. And one for next year, I'm like, because I'd had 5, 6 or so years in a row of 1%ers, and then I have a bad year this year, and all right, what have I done wrong? What do I need to change? And I go, do I need to make drastic changes off one bad year? And like 4,000 wasn't a good year, but it wasn't a terrible year kind of thing. One that I want to kind of do next year is, I'm pretty conservative with my Supercoach approach. I probably follow the crowd in a respect at times just because of risk mitigation and thinking that, all right, I can go out and get a super pod who I back and want to do well, but if they get injured, which has happened to me in the past, like Ponga, which just scarred me for life, it can just kill you. Next year, I kind of just want to go, like Drinky. I was real keen on Drinky early on when he was at a real good price, and I went, yeah, but if I bring him on and some Ponga one, he goes poorly, he doesn't hit the heights, and I'm screwed. Next year, I'm thinking of just going, you know what? Back the gut, back the footy now, whatever level that is in Supercoach, and get these guys in. Sure, if one or two of them do get injured or don't hit their straps, but if you get on like a Drinky early this season, you were soaring. And just having a bit of fun with it. It's riskier, but at the same time, if it pays off and you back your gut on a few of these plays and super pods, you could freaking soar.
And that's where I think you back your Supercoach knowledge over your footy knowledge. And I like, Drinky is a classic fucking example, I reckon.
I've got an article that I wrote for Playbook. I think he'd had a couple of okay weeks in a row, and I was like, well, there was a section on super pods, and he was at like 0% or 1% ownership. I said, great trade in, spoke about his history, this one poor game he had, but I didn't do it. And like, hindsight's a great thing, isn't it? How easy is it to say this? But I just think next year I'm like, if I sit there and back a bloke and he's at low ownership, just go, you know what? Don't worry about risk mitigation. Just go it. If it goes wrong, so be it. But if it goes right, far out, you can make some jumps.
And I mean, I also think that sometimes, like, if it goes wrong, like, how wrong can it go? Like, if it's completely fucked for 2 weeks, like, mate, I look back and we'll get to it with my team. Like, I don't know. I feel like I wasted more trades than what you did this year on just rogue shit going for it.
I didn't have said before, I don't think I had too many bad.
Yeah, it's actually
trades.
very disappointing looking at your trades because there's nothing. Whereas I know for me, I've got 3 or 4 that are just absolute fucking Barry Crockers. But I got to the last few weeks and got Kohler, which was the main one, and that made up for all those others.
Yeah.
All right, like if you can take
enormous.
5 swings,
Yeah.
if you can hit on 2 or 3 of them,
It
you're
doesn't
flying.
matter about the bad ones.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where I'm stuck into. And fortunately, I've got about 6 months to work out this direction. But off one below par year from years of sort of good finishes, do I really reinvent the wheel? Do I need to? So that's what I've got to work out over the next bit of time.
I don't think you need to reinvent it too much, to be completely honest with you. But I mean, it is also credit to you and playbook and everything that, you know, I look at you finishing 4,000 and go, fuck, Tim had a shocker by your standards. So full credit to you.
Anyway.
Anything else on there, Riser?
Well, he eventually did go to Scott Drinkwater.
Yeah.
Around 20, is that 26 it looks like. You can probably tell us how that went.
Very well.
Yep.
Yeah. Dolphins game. And, yeah, it went big. And this is a funny one because I knew going into the Panthers game and the word was sort of that maybe they won't be resting as we sort of anticipated around 27. And I just remember watching bits and pieces of that game going, he needs to go big here because I know I'm copping a 30 the following week. And it eventuated exactly that way. So as a 2-week play, I think he might have averaged about 80-odd points because he did stink it up against Penrith, but to be expected.
I think another bonus, just was the Drinkwater goal kicking. Like, that came out of nowhere.
Yes.
I think Chad historically had kicked when Val wasn't there, so it made him even better than what you probably were expecting him.
It's very unfortunate they played the Panthers in the last round. Literally anyone else. Like, if he would have played anyone else in the last round, I would have got Drinky over Kohler, 100%.
Yeah, Broncos, Storm, whoever it would have been.
Don't give a fuck.
Wouldn't have mattered. Goal kicking, Cowboys playing for top 8. People think they shut the bed in round 27 against Penrith. No, they didn't. Penrith are just awesome. So anyone else, but
anyone else.
Knew that, so.
Yep.
Yeah. Anything else, Riser?
We
Send out to you?
We haven't mentioned it yet, and that's probably the 1 to 27 rounds, but captaincy choices, like, they're so massive, right? And we all think back to, I know the Nico one stands out early that you probably missed, but there's some that you've nailed here. I look at Nath Cleary round 6 for 158. How important is captaincy? I know it's probably a stupid question to ask, but that's the difference between finishing 4,000th and finishing in the top 1%.
Yeah, it's at the end of the day, you can look at it and say, I got calls right, I got calls wrong. Captaincy is a freaking lottery. Like, unless you're a complete rogue and you go for pod captains each week and you get ones wrong or right and you say, like, come on, this is G up. We all make informed decisions, and I don't think people skew away from the obvious captains too often.
Yep.
It's just luck. Like, I think from memory this year, mine were reasonable enough, not terrible, not great. Joey Manu injury aside, and even the Manu injury, I just sort of sat there and went,
You take it.
I'm so in tune to, like, shit goes wrong in Supercoach that when it happened, I went, injuries are going to happen. And I, for a long time, especially since I've really taken up Supercoach for a living and doing playbook and that sort of thing, that you can't let your weekend get ruined by something that goes wrong in Supercoach. So when Manu went down, sure, I was annoyed, but I'm like, I'm not going to kick up steam for this. It's going to happen in the future again, and you can't, so it can't ruin a weekend.
Cool.
Is there a standout captain from the year? Let's take away Joey Manu that you remember being really costly, just out of interest. I've obviously got them in front of me, but is there one that stands out to you that you remember?
Is there another one there?
I mean, not as low as Joey Manu, obviously. There is there's a 32-point score you had as captain here. I imagine a lot of people would have had him that weekend, though. Any idea who that is?
32.
32 points, round 14, Nath Cleary. I imagine a lot of people would have had him. Looking at, obviously, round 13. A guy that we actually didn't talk about too much, which between you and me was an interesting one. I think I went Clint Gutherson, you went Dill Brown in the same week. Do you remember we were at the Newcastle game and they were both scoring tries for fun? Gutho scooted from dummy half and scored 3 tries. Great for me. Dill Brown, he would have been a really interesting one for you had he played the entire year.
He averaged like late 70s or mid 70s or something.
Doing fuck all.
Doing nothing.
Yeah.
And I think from memory, he carried on off field before the round 13 bye, and I owned him, and he would have been not just an extra number for that 13, 16, 19, which Parramatta played. And like people would have jumped on him, to be fair, for anyone who didn't own, but would have saved a trade, would have had a bloke locked in there who's a gun, would have solved a tough 5'8 position. Like as good as Phoenix Crossland was for me, would have been nice if that was Dylan Brown.
Yeah.
So that one certainly didn't help.
The other guy that stood out to me when I was reading through your side, and I sort of went, oh, fuck, I can't believe Tim had him, was Adam Dewey. I looked at my team. I had him to start the season too. Feels like so long ago. You actually captained him in round 2. How long ago does it feel like that Adam Dewey was a captain option?
Who'd they play that week?
I don't know, but it must have been a good matchup for you to take him there. He only scored 56, so no huge shock there. But I have a vague memory now we're talking about it of him being a good choice there. Fuck, played the Newcastle Knights at Leichhardt Oval. So I remember us going, oh, Knights, easy matchup. They're going. Was KP out to start the year maybe?
No, that's the day he got his head knocked.
That was the day, was it?
But round 1, so Dewey scored, I think it was 89 or 90.
Well.
So, you know, you're probably thinking goal kicking at home against the Knights, like
why not?
Sunday Arvo, Leichhardt, there's going to be 20,000. And like so often we say, you can't predict just what comes next.
Yeah.
And the other one was another lesson I learnt this year. It's just, like I had Brian Toto, I believe, from the entire season. I think I sold him. Average 70 plus odd was fantastic, but geez, he missed some key games for me. He missed, I think they rested him after at least 2 of the Origins, possibly 3. And they were really good matchups that were like you were looking at 100 plus, 150 plus potential scores. And then got a rest late in the season against the Titans. I think it was another great matchup. And just missing key games where you needed numbers. It's like there were a few Origin players like that got rests around that period where just made them tough to own. But
well, it was him one missing games is a huge factor, but like he finished the season averaging 71 points, and I felt like every single week I thought, fuck, thank God they didn't pass the ball to Toto again.
Yeah.
Like if he was to land a centre, which he probably won't, to be fair, unless Taylor May lands there next year and maybe he passes the football. Like if Taylor May does land there at centre and he passes the ball, Brian Toto becomes a must-have in my opinion.
And that's it. I'll be sitting here. He frustrated me this year despite being completely reliable when he played. But geez, I'm going to be tempted to have him round 1 again next year. Like as you said, you just feel like every year scratching the surface, and it's all about a passing centre, isn't it? So
with Toto as well, something that probably goes unnoticed or unspoken about is he can play left or right. It doesn't really matter, and I don't think that affects his score too much.
It's about whoever's inside him.
Yeah. Both centres didn't pass in the fucking ball.
I agree. But
and then when one of them was out, Peachy came in and it got worse.
Yeah.
Imagine if he had Will Hopewadi inside him. He'd average 300.
I was having a look. From his last 12 games this season, he only didn't score in 2 of them. So all things considered, how he was never getting the football, if it happens this next year that he does get more ball, fucking hell. Yeah. It's going to be scary.
Beast.
And you know when he doesn't score, he runs for 200 metres.
Yeah.
So on his worst day, he's probably a 55, 60 anyway.
Yeah, he'll base that.
Could also be a great first 12-round play. Let's assume playing with the top 2 next year because they're freaks. Could be a great round 12 sell because you know you'll get by rest after it and then bring back in round 20 sort of thing.
Yeah, like he really is just the ultimate safe CTW, I think.
Yeah.
Realistically.
Is there, just looking at this and sort of dissecting the year that was, is there any player that you think come round 1 next year, no matter what their price or what team, what position they're in, that you just couldn't touch? Have you been burned to that degree? Probably tough top of your head, but I know there's probably some that you'd...
That I couldn't
like for a Schuster, for example, like as soon as we said his name, your skin crawled. Like is there someone that like that Brandon Smith perhaps, he's going to be 450 odd K again. Could you go around Brandon or Schuster?
I found the Sharks. I overinvest in Sharks a little bit too much because they played that third final major buy round. We're going all right, had heaps of attack, and they didn't kill me, but I had too many Sharks to finish the season, which wasn't ideal. Who was the one next year, boys? Fullback. Holy shit, round 1.
Yeah, it's going to be tough.
Kalyn Ponga's not going to have dual. So it's going to be Kalyn Ponga. Reece Walsh is an absolute superstar, as we know. I'll be so tempted to part for him, but he also averaged a heap this year. Ryan Papenhuyzen, Tom Trbojevic, to a less degree, but if the Roosters come good, James Tedesco, Scott Drinkwater, fullback next year, it's going to be incredible.
You haven't even mentioned Ryan Papenhuyzen.
Ryan Papenhuyzen, it's going to be mental. That decision round 1.
Do you think as well, again, one of those lines that gets thrown out in Supercoach so often is you need 2-gun fullbacks. Have we dispelled that theory this year with the likes of Garrick, Asako, these guys that hold your position? How many times are we going to hear Cola? We haven't even got to Guru.
Oh, it hasn't even started. Don't worry.
Yeah, I thought I'd give the Roo that one, save it for his potty.
Is that the...
Hey, when did you play for Newcastle?
Who's that?
Zach Hosking.
Oh my
With a
god.
broken wing.
That was Timmy around
Dead ringer.
June, July when he needed a haircut.
Same amount of acne as a 17-year-old Tim as well. That's great.
That's unreal. Mate, obviously Riser just asked you if there's anyone you'd avoid forever now. Is there anyone that really stole your heart this year that'll probably be a favourite moving forward now?
I love Phoenix Crossland.
Yeah.
For many reasons, but I love, I just love a battler in rugby league because coming up as a shit, terrible footballer myself, I was just I was always a little string bean, a little runt and sort of be coming up against these blokes weighing 110 kilos. And I was always like, geez, good fun having a crack here, but good God, how blokes go on and push to higher grades and push through to the NRL level. And you look at blokes like Phoenix Crossland, who to his credit was coming through the grades as a really good halfback, but someone like Jacob Preston, who's not a big boy, but just throws his weight around. Cameron Murray, why I love him so much. Not a heap of size about him, but just goes toe-to-toe with these big blokes. I mean, how tough must these blokes be? And I think what I love about Crossland is that he's been shunted out of that halves that he came through the grades with and thrown into the forwards as an 80-minute hooker, as a bloke who came through as a halfback, defending in the back line, to playing 80 minutes, defending 120 kilo Asafa Solomonas and Olaquatus and these big boys. I just love that.
Name me 5 hookers you would rather have right now than Phoenix on form this year.
SuperCoach?
Incredible.
Or
NRL.
Yeah.
Name either. Don't care.
Yeah. No, couldn't struggle to do it. And the other one there that comes to mind when I talk about this type of player, Blake Brayley.
Yeah.
Mate, I see him around Cronulla all the time. He's tiny. When do you sit there and go, oh, Brayley run over the top of again or let that one through? Mate, he is in 80 minutes every week.
Yeah.
He's so tough.
Could be sitting here talking about those two. Well, probably more so Brayley, to be fair, with Blake Brayley, with Jaden Brayley coming back for Newcastle. But yeah, we're going to find players this time next year. We look back and like the Phoenix Crosslands, they've plugged in and they've done a job. But I didn't think we'd be sitting here this time last year talking about Phoenix Crossland as a great.
And to be honest with you, Jaden Brayley was one that I thought would be a really good Supercoach player this year. He's gone now too. That's always going to be a job share now. So there's another 80-minute hooker.
Yeah.
Gone. Draft players, another one that hurts us.
The other shout out, Tyron Peachy, of course, who... Yeah. Mate, he would have averaged, without crunching numbers, 65, 70 plus for me when I played him this year. Earned me a ton of cash, got me through a tough, probably origin period whenever I got him in. So the Peach, and so fun to watch, and own, because he just runs it all the time, gets involved, offloads, tackle bus. He was great.
It was a fucking nightmare watching Penrith, because I was obviously keeping track of your team all the time, and you had Toto on the right, and you had Peachy on the left at times. It was an absolute nightmare.
And the worst thing about is that if you were a nono, you're watching my side and Peach, just knowing that I got him as a cheapie.
Yeah.
If you pay $700K for him, they have to score accordingly. But when he's punching out 80s and that, and you get him at $250, $300K, oh, it's so sweet.
So good. Riser, anything else, mate?
No, I think we leave it there. I think all in all, not a bad season. Like we say, probably being critical to the degree of 4,000. Rank doesn't mean too much. There's just those sliding doors moments which we look back on that definitely swayed your year from where you finished to being the Beers and Break-Evens champion.
Yeah. Yeah, I think as you said, boys, timing is everything. You can make some wrong trades, get a few things stuff up, but you need to get on the big boys at the right time and sell at the right time. And I probably just didn't do that well enough this year.
Yeah. I disagree with Riser. I think rank is life, and I think it's all that counts. So
I love having Riser on
tough
here.
shit. I don't. I'm liking him less and less.
Thank God he was here.
Doing my fucking head in. All right, guys. I'll be back next week. I think I'm going to jump in the hot seat next week. I'm going to crow till the fucking cows come home.
Funny
so
thing
brace
about
yourself.
that potty's going to be that, as you said earlier, you made some shit trades, some terrible decisions. But you've got the glory, so it's
going to be a very delicate little podcast, yeah.
How many times are we going to hear the word cola? We might have to get over or under with
We should do a count.
responsibly.
Yeah, because I'm going to go huge overs. All right, guys, thank you for joining us once again. If you want to reach out to Blue Wealth Property, reach out to myself or Timmy, or in the description of the podcast or the YouTube. I've got Wealth Through Property, the webinar on the 28th of September, grand final week. That will be a cracker. Shout out to Kempy as well. Bloke in a bar, obviously housing beers and break-evens for another year. Where would we be without the great Kemposaurus? T-Rex?
Probably my bedroom.
Yeah, probably your bedroom or my garage.
Yep.
One of the two. It'd be fucking awkward as all hell.
Scary, both of them.
Scary, terrifying. So, yeah, thank you to Kempy once again. And we will see you next Wednesday on YouTube, 3 p.m, or on the podcast at 6 p.m. for Guru Roasting, where I might masturbate live on the show. So,
What a way to wrap that
don't miss out on it. See you next week.